Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Engineering and Technology, SOET, Master of Science, Renewable Energy and Environment, MSCRWEE. Semester 2, MEV 003 Environmental Law and Management. Block 1 Environmental Acts, Laws and Policies. Unit 2 National Environmental Legislation and Programmes-1.
Programmes-1 2.0 Introduction. Environmental legislation is the collection of laws and regulations pertaining to air quality, water quality, the wilderness, endangered wildlife and other environmental factors. The umbrella of environmental legislation covers many laws and regulations, yet they all work together toward a common goal, which is regulating the interaction between man and the natural world to reduce threats to the environment and increase public health. As you might imagine, environmental legislation is a broad topic, mainly because the natural environment encompasses so many different aspects. So, environmental laws need to consider everything, from the air we breathe to the natural resources we rely on to the plants and animals that share this world with us. To better understand environmental law, let's look at an example. Let's say that an energy company wants to build a coal-burning power plant to create electricity for the community. Where should this power plant to be built? What type of pollutants might result from the coal burning, and what measures will need to be taken to control harmful emissions? If the power plant is built at the edge of town to lessen air pollution for the human population, how will this impact lesser species that inhabit the land downwind of the plant? These are all considerations to be evaluated within the scope of Environmental Law 2.1 objectives. After reading this unit, you should be able to understand the various national environmental legislations with the Water Prevention Control of Pollution Act 1974, the Air Prevention Control of Pollution Act 1981, the Environmental Protection Act 1986, Environmental Impact Assessment Notification 2006. Explain various national program with National Wetland Conservation Program, National Health Policy 2002, National Rural Health Mission, National Vector-Borne Disease Control Program, National Tobacco Control Program, National Program for Prevention and Control of Fluorosis, National Iodine Deficiency Disorder Control Program, their objectives, goal, etc., to point to historical content. Debates over how to preserve air and water quality are not new. These topics, along with many other environmental issues, have been subjected to laws for thousands of years. There is evidence of early Roman law regarding the handling of water and sewage. In fact, it is speculated that the Roman Empire lasted as long as it did because they paid so much attention to sewage networks and extensive freshwater distribution channels. However, the official timeline of environmental law in the United States did not start until the 20th century. The United States is regarded as a world leader when it comes to development and application of environmental law, and the 1960s are when the process got started. This time period in US history was marked by a surge in economic and industrial growth, along with an increase in factories and industrial activities, came a mounting concern about the impact these practices were having on the Earth's natural environment. This was also a time when environmentalism, which is a movement toward protecting the natural environment against hazards and pollutants, matured into a public and political force. 2.3 Tiwari Committee. The Government of India set up a committee in January 1980 under the chairmanship of Shri N.D. Tiwari, then Deputy Chairman of the Planning Commission, to review the existing environmental legislations and recommend legislative measures and administrative machinery for environmental protection. The committee stressed the need for the proper management of the country's natural resources of land, forest and water in order to conserve the nation's ecological basis. The committee's recommendations were creation of comprehensive environmental code to cover all types of pollution and environmental degradation, constitution of environmental courts in all district headquarters and appointment of experts to assist the court, creation of Department of Environment, setting up a central land commission, provisions of economic incentives to industries to encourage environment-friendly products, income tax and sales tax benefits for adapting cleaner technology, investment tax, credits for purchases of purification devices, replacement cost of purification equipment in annual operating costs and minimal tax or no tax on the manufacture of pollution control devices, making environmental impact assessment not only a prerequisite for industry to start but also repeated periodically. The emphasis laid in the Planning Commission's reports and Tiwari Committee's recommendations led the Government of India to set up a separate department, namely Department of Environment in the year 1980. To improve the implementation of laws and policy directives, the Department of Environment was replaced by an integrated Department of Environment, Forests and Wildlife in the year 1985, which later on expanded into a ministry, namely Ministry of Environment and Forests. Nowadays it is named as Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change 2.4. The Water Prevention Control of Pollution Act 1974, Water Prevention Control of Pollution Act 1974 is a comprehensive legislation that regulates agencies responsible for checking on water pollution and ambit of pollution control boards both at the center and states. The government formulated this act in 1974 to prevent the pollution of water by industrial, agricultural and household wastewater that can contaminate our water sources. Wastewaters with high levels of pollutants that enter wetlands, rivers, lakes, wells as well as the sea are serious health hazards. Controlling the point sources by monitoring the levels of different pollutants is one way to prevent pollution. By punishing the polluter, the main objectives of the Water Act are to provide for prevention, control and abatement of water pollution and the maintenance or restoration of the wholesomeness of water. The Water Act 1974 with certain amendments in 1978 is an extensive legislation with more than 60 sections for the prevention and control of water pollution. Among other things, the Act provides for constitution of central and state boards for preventing water pollution, power to take water samples and their analysis, discharge of sewage or trade effluents, appeals, revision, minimum and maximum penalties, publication of names of offenders, offences by companies and government departments, cognizance of offences, water laboratories, analysis etc. Prevention and control of water pollution is achieved through a permit or consent administration procedure. Discharge of effluents is permitted by obtaining the consent of the State Water Board, subject to any condition they specify. Any person who fails to comply with a directive of the state cannot, however, entertain in suit under this Act unless the suit is brought by or with the sanction of the State Board. Some of the important sections regulating the prevention of water pollution as per the Act are as discussed below. Section 17 clearly lists all functions of the respective state boards for countering water pollution. The state water boards also have the right to inspect sewage or trade effluents, works and plants for the treatment of sewage and trade effluents and to review all water purification plants. The board may establish or recognize a laboratory or laboratories to enable the board to perform its functions under this section efficiently, including the analysis of samples of water from any stream or well or of samples of any sewage or trade effluents. Section 25 states that prior consent of the State Board under Section 25 is necessary to set up any industry, plant or process which is likely to discharge sewage or trade effluent into a stream or well or sewer or on land or bring into use any new or altered outlets for the discharge of sewage or begin to make any new discharge of sewage. The section further states that every state board is liable to maintain a register containing particulars or conditions imposed under the section related to any outlet or to any effluent from any land or premises which must be open to inspection by the State Board. Section 32 describes the power to take emergency measures in case of pollution of stream or well. Under the Act, State Board may issue orders to remove the matter which is or may cause pollution or remedy or mitigate the pollution or issue prohibition orders to the concerned persons from discharging any poisonous or noxious or polluting matter. Section 24 and 43 relate to prohibition on use of stream or well for disposal of polluting matter and penalty for contravention thereof. Anyone failing to abide by the laws of under is liable for imprisonment under Section 24, Section 43, ranging from not less than 1 year and 6 months to 6 years along with monetary fines. Section 42 states penalties and fines for certain acts including pulling down pillars, obstructs any person acting under the orders or direction of the board, damages any works or property belonging to the board and failure to furnish any officer other employee of the board any information required. The fine and penalty includes imprisonment for a term which may extend up to 3 months or with fine to 10,000 rupees or both. Understanding water class, depending on the pollution of the water. Water is demarked under various water classes in accordance with the Water Prevention Control of Pollution Act, 1974. Drinking water at source found without conventional treatment but after disinfection is designated as Class A, while water designated for outdoor bathing comes under Class B. Any drinking water source which has been conventionally treated comes under Class C, while water used for propagation of wildlife and fisheries is demarked as Class D. Water under Class E is used for irrigation and industrial cooling along with waste disposal. Water Pollution Cess Act, 1977. According to this Act, anyone consuming water has to pay certain amount of cess depending on I. Whether the industry is using water for industrial cooling, spraying in mine pits or boilers. Feed. 2. For domestic purposes. 3. In processing, whereby water gets polluted and pollutants are easily biodegradable. 4. In processing whereby water gets polluted and the pollutants are not easily biodegradable and are toxic. Those industries that had installed a suitable treatment plant for the treatment of industrial effluents can get a rebate of 70% on the cess payable. Some key points of Water Act, 1974. Water Act 1974 aims to prevent and control water pollution. Under Water Act 1974, pollution control boards were created, who are responsible for implementation of its provisions. One of the important provisions of the Water Act 1974 is to maintain and restore the wholesomeness of our aquatic resources. Under Water Act 1974, sewage or pollutants cannot be discharged into water bodies including lakes, and it is the duty of the State Pollution Control Board to intervene and stop such activity. Anyone failing to abide by the laws of under is liable for imprisonment under Section 24, Section 43, ranging from not less than 1 year and 6 months to 6 years, along with monetary fines. 2.5 The AIR, Prevention Control of Pollution Act 1981, the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981 is a central act of Parliament which provides for the prevention and control of air pollution and maintaining the good quality of air. It is also a comprehensive legislation with more than 50 sections. According to the Act, air pollution means the presence in the atmosphere of any air pollutant, and air pollutant means any solid, liquid or gaseous substance present in the atmosphere in such a concentration as may be or tend to be injurious to human beings or other living creatures or plant or property or environment. It makes provisions, inter alia, for central and state boards, power to declare pollution control areas, restrictions on certain industrial units, authority of the boards to limit emission of air pollutants, power of entry, inspection, taking, samples and analysis. Penalties, offences by companies and government, and cognizance of offences, etc. The Act specifically empowers state government to designate air pollution areas and to prescribe the type of fuel to be used in these designated areas. According to this Act, no person can operate certain types of industries including the asbestos, cement, fertilizer and petroleum industries without consent of the state board. The board can predicate its consent upon the fulfillment of certain conditions. The Air Act apparently adopts an industry-wide best available technology requirement. As in the Water Act, courts may hear complaints under the Act only at the instigation of or with the sanction of the State Board. The government passed this Act in 1981 to clean up our air by controlling pollution. It states that sources of air pollution such as industry, vehicles, power plants, etc. are not permitted to release particulate matter, lead, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide, volatile organic compounds, VOCs, or other toxic substances beyond a prescribed level. To ensure this, pollution control boards, PCBs, have been set up by government to measure pollution levels in the atmosphere and at certain sources by testing the air. This is measured in parts per million or in milligrams or micrograms per cubic meter. The particulate matter and gases that are released by industry and by cars, buses and two-wheelers is measured by using air sampling equipment. However, the most important aspect is for people themselves to appreciate the dangers of air pollution and reduce their own potential as polluters by seeing that their own vehicles or the industry they work in reduces levels of emissions. This Act is created to take appropriate steps for the preservation of the natural resources of the earth, which among other things includes the preservation of high-quality air and ensures controlling the level of air pollution. Some of the important sections regulating the prevention of air pollution as per the Act are as discussed below. Section 16 of this Act prescribes the functions of the Central Board and includes giving advice to the central government, guidance and technical help to the state boards, coordinating the activities of the state, training, awareness and dissemination of information and planning a nationwide program for the prevention and control of air pollution. The standards for air quality have also to be prescribed by the Central Board. The Central Board may also establish a laboratory or laboratories to assist it in performing its functions. It may also delegate any of its functions to any committee formed by it for the purpose. Section 17 of the Act prescribes functions of the state boards. It includes training, awareness, planning and executing programs for air pollution control, advising the state government in matters relating to air pollution, collecting and disseminating information, inspecting premises and giving suitable directions for air pollution control, assessing the ambient air quality, laying down emission standards in consultation with the Central Pollution Control Board. standards prescribed by the central government or the Central Pollution Control Board cannot be relaxed by the state boards. They can only be made more stringent, advising the state government on the suitability of any location for an air polluting industry and setting up or recognizing a laboratory or laboratories to enable the state board to perform its functions. Section 18 states that the written directions given by the central government have to be followed by the central board. Similarly, the written directions given by the state government have to be followed by the state board. If the directions given by the state government do not match with the directions given by the central board, then the matter has to be referred to the central government for a decision. Section 19 empowers state government of specify air pollution control area and prohibit specific fuel therein. The State Pollution Control Board may also prohibit the burning of any fuel or non-fuel material which is likely to cause air pollution or the operation of any appliance which is not an approved appliance. In an air pollution control area, Section 20 empowers state government to give directions to the road transport officers to ensure standard of emission of air pollutants by automobiles and give such instructions as may be deemed necessary to the concerned authority in charge of registration of motor vehicles under the Motor Vehicles Act 1939, Act 4 of 1939, and such authority shall be bound to comply with such instructions. Section 21 makes a provision of consent of the State Pollution Control Board for establishing or operating any industrial plant in an air pollution control area. It also lays down procedures for making the application, which has to be in the prescribed form and accompanied by such fees as may be prescribed. The manner of inquiry and a time limit of 4 months within which the consent has either to be granted or refused by the state board. The consent so granted may be cancelled or refused before the expiry of the period of consent if the conditions are not complied with. Section 22 states that no person having any industrial plant in an air pollution control area can discharge emissions of any air pollutants in the excess of the standards prescribed by the state pollution control boards. Section 22 where a violation of the emission standards prescribed by the board is apprehended, the board may make an application to a court for restraining such person from emitting such pollutant. The court may issue necessary directions. In case the same are not complied with by the person, the court may authorize the board to implement the directions. Costs so incurred by the board can be recovered as arrears of land revenue. Section 24 states that any person authorized by a state board has a right to enter any place with the objective of performing his duties under the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act as entrusted to him and shall be provided all assistance by the person operating the plant. Section 25 states that the state board or any officer empowered by the board has a right to seek information from the occupier or any other person operating the plant regarding functions as entrusted to the officer in this behalf. He will also have a right to inspect the premises in order to verify the correctness of the information. Section 26 empowers the state board or any officer in this behalf to take samples of air or emission from any chimney, flue or duct or any other outlet. It also prescribes the procedure for giving notice, dividing samples into 2 parts, sending one part to the board and the other part to the state air laboratory, constituted by the state government under Section 28 for analysis. Section 31 any person aggrieved by an order made by the state board under this act may prefer an appeal before the appellate authority constituted by the state government for the purpose. The appeal has to be generally filed within 30 days from the date on which the order is communicated, but the appellate authority may entertain the appeal after the expiry of 30 days, if it is satisfied that the appellant was prevented by sufficient cause from filing the appeal in time. Section 31A empowers the state pollution control boards in the exercise of their powers and performance of functions under this Act to issue any direction in writing to any person, officer or authority. It has also been provided that such person, officer or authority shall be bound to comply with the directions. The power to issue directions under this section includes the power to direct for the closure, prohibition or regulation of any industry, operation or process, or the stoppage or regulation of supply of electricity, water or any other services, failure to comply with the provisions 21 or section 22 or both with the directions issued under section 31, section 37. Whoever fails to comply with the provisions of section 21 or section 22 or directions issued under section 31A shall, in respect of each such failure, be punishable with imprisonment, which shall not be less than 1 year and 6 months, but which may extend to 6 years, and with fine, and in case of failure continues, with an additional fine of 5,000 rupees every day. Section 38. Any person who damages any works or property belonging to the board, or any notice or other matter put up under the authority of the board, furnishes false information, fails to inform violation or apprehension of violation of standards, or makes a false statement for the purpose of obtaining any consent under section 21, shall be punishable with imprisonment for a term which may extend to 3 months, or with fine which may extend to 10,000 rupees, or both. Section 39. Any order or direction issued under the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, for which no penalty has been provided elsewhere in this Act, shall be punishable with imprisonment for a term which may extend to 3 months, or with fine of 10,000 rupees, or both, and in case of failure continues, with an additional fine of 5,000 rupees every day. Section 40. Every person who, at the time of offence was committed, was directly in charge of, and was responsible to, the company for the conduct of the business of the company, as well as the company, shall be deemed to be guilty of the offence, and shall be liable to be proceeded against and punished accordingly in this Act prescribed. Section 41. Where an offence under this Act has been committed be any department of government, the head of the department or any other officer responsible by way of consent, connivance or neglect shall be deemed to be guilty of the offence, and shall be liable to be proceeded against and punished accordingly. Thus, the main objectives of the Act are as follows: A. To provide for the prevention, control and abatement of air pollution. B. To provide for the establishment of central and state boards with a view to implement the Act. C. To confer on the boards the powers to implement the provisions of the Act, and assign to the boards functions relating to pollution. Air pollution is more acute in heavily industrialized and urbanized areas, which are also densely populated. The presence of pollution beyond certain limits, due to various pollutants discharged through industrial emission, is monitored by the PCBs set up in every state. 2.6 Establishment of MEV. Environmental debates were first introduced into the national political agenda during Indira Gandhi's first term as Prime Minister of India. The fourth five-year plan, 1969-74, for example, proclaimed harmonious development on the basis of a comprehensive appraisal of environmental issues. In 1976, during the emergency, Gandhi added Article 48A to the Constitution, stating that the state shall endeavour to protect and improve the environment and to safeguard the forests and wildlife of the country. The same decree transferred wildlife and forests from state list to concurrent list of the Constitution, thus giving the central government the power to overrule state decisions on that matter. Such political and constitutional changes prepared the groundwork for the creation of a Federal Department of Environment in 1980, turned into the Ministry of Environment and Forests, MEV, in 1985. Although tackling climate change was already a responsibility of the ministry, its priority was raised when in May 2014 the ministry was renamed to the current title of Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. The Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, MOEFCC, is an Indian government ministry. The ministry is responsible for planning, promoting, coordinating, and overseeing the implementation of environmental and forestry programs in the country. The main activities undertaken by the ministry include conservation and survey of the flora of India and fauna of India, forests and other wilderness areas, prevention and control of pollution, afforestation, and land degradation mitigation. It is responsible for the administration of the national parks of India. The primary concerns of the ministry are implementation of policies and programs relating to conservation of the country's natural resources, including its lakes and rivers, its biodiversity, forests and wildlife, ensuring the welfare of animals, and the prevention and abatement of pollution. While implementing these policies and programs, the ministry is guided by the principle of sustainable development and enhancement of human well-being. The ministry also serves as the nodal agency in the country for the United Nations Environment Programme (UNEP), South Asia Cooperative Environment Programme (SESEP), International Center for Integrated Mountain Development (ICMOD), and for the follow-up of the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development (UNCED). The ministry is also entrusted with issues relating to multilateral bodies such as the Commission on Sustainable Development (CSD), Global Environment Facility (GEF), and of regional bodies like Economic and Social Council for Asia and Pacific (ESCAP) and South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation (SAARC), on matters pertaining to the environment. The broad objectives of the ministry are conservation and survey of flora, fauna, forests and wildlife, prevention and control of pollution, afforestation and regeneration of degraded areas, protection of the environment and ensuring the welfare of animals. These objectives are well supported by a set of legislative and regulatory measures aimed at the preservation, conservation and protection of the environment. Besides the legislative measures, the National Conservation Strategy and Policy Statement on Environment and Development, 1992, National Forest Policy, 1988, Policy Statement on Abatement of Pollution, 1992, and the National Environment Policy, 2006 also guide the ministry's work. 2.7 The Environmental Protection Act, 1986, CPCB, SFEO and SPCBS, against the backdrop of the United Nations Conference on the Human Environment held at Stockholm in June 1972, in which India was a participant. The central government enacted a legislation, the Environment Protection Act, 1986, with an objective for protection and improvement of the environment and for matters connected therewith. The Act came into force on 19 November 1986, the birth anniversary of our late Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, who was a pioneer of environmental protection issues in our country. The Act extends to whole of India as a remedy to the lacuna noticed in the earlier laws, and to serve as a single legislation on the subject. The Air, Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, 1981 and the Water, Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, 1974 were amended to bring their provisions at par with those of the Environment Protection Act 1986 and 2 give more powers to the implementing agencies. As per this Act, the central government shall have the power to take all such measures for the purpose of protecting and improving the quality of the environment and to prevent environmental pollution. Further, the central government shall have the power to give directions in writing to any person or officer or any authority for any of the purposes of the Act, including the power to direct the closure, prohibition or regulation of any industry, operation or process. No person carrying on an industry, operation or process shall discharge or emit any environmental pollutant in excess of standards prescribed by the government. Further, persons handling with hazardous substances shall comply with the procedural safeguards as may be prescribed by the authorities as per the Act where the discharge of any environmental pollutant in excess of prescribed standard occurs or is apprehended to occur due to any accidental or other unforeseen act or event. The person responsible for such discharge shall be bound to prevent or mitigate the pollutant so caused as well as intimate the fact of such occurrence to the concerned authorities, the central government or any other officer empowered by the central government shall have the powers to take the samples of air, water, soil or any other substances from any factory, premises, etc. for the purpose of analysis. The said officer shall without delay send the container with the sample to the laboratory established or recognized by central government. The central government has established several environmental laboratories for the purposes of the Environment Protection Act for the purposes of protecting and improving the quality of the environment and preventing and abating environmental pollution. The standards of emission or discharge of environmental pollutants from the industries, operations or processes are specified in Schedules 1 to 1B of the Environment Protection Rules. The central government takes into consideration various factors while prohibiting or restricting the location of industries and carrying on of processes and operations in different areas. Every person carrying on an industry, operation, or process requiring consent under the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974 or under the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981 or both or authorization under the Hazardous Waters Management and Handling Rules 1989 shall submit an environmental statement for the financial year ending on the 31st March in Form V to the concerned State Pollution Control Board on or before the 13th day of September every year. Beginning 1993, the salient features of the Environment Protection Act 1986, India. This Act has been brought into force from November 1986. Its salient features are a. Conferring powers on the central government to I. Take all necessary measures for protecting quality of environment, 2. Coordinate actions of states, officers and other authorities under this Act, 3. Plan and execute a nationwide program for prevention, control and abatement of environmental pollution, 4. Lay down standards for discharge of environmental pollutants. We empower any person to enter, inspect, take samples and test. 6. Establish or recognize environmental laboratories. 7. Appoint or recognize government analysts. 8. Lay down standards for quality of environment. 8. Restrict areas in which any industries, operations or processes may not be carried out subject to certain safeguards. 9. Lay down safeguards for prevention of accidents and take remedial measures in case of such accidents. KISS Smiley lay down procedures and safeguards for handling hazardous substances. 11. Constitute an authority for exercising powers. 12. Issue directions to any person, officer or authority including the power to direct closure, prohibition or regulation of any industry, operation or process. 13. Require any person, officer or authority to furnish any prescribed information. And 14. Delegate powers to any officer of a state or authority. B. It confers powers on persons to complain to courts regarding any violation of the provisions of the Act after a notice of 60 days to the prescribed authorities. C. The Act makes it obligatory for the person in charge of a place to inform the prescribed authorities regarding any accidental discharge of any pollutant in excess of prescribed standards. The concerned authorities, on receipt of such information, shall take remedial measures to prevent or mitigate pollution caused by such accidents, and expenses incurred by the authorities in respect of remedial measures are recoverable with interest from the polluter. D. It prescribes stringent penalties for violation of the provisions of the Act. And E. Jurisdiction of civil courts is barred under the Act. Central Pollution Control Board (CPCB). The Central Pollution Control Board (CPCB) statutory organization was constituted in September 1974 under the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974. Further, CPCB was entrusted with the powers and functions under the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981. It serves as a field formation and also provides technical services to the Ministry of Environment and Forests of the provisions of the Environment Protection Act 1986. CPCB plays role in abatement and control of pollution in the country by generating relevant data, providing scientific information, rendering technical inputs for formation of national policies and programs, training and development of manpower, and organizing activities for promoting awareness at different levels of the government and public. Principal functions, as spelt out in the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974 and the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981, I. To promote cleanliness of streams and wells in different areas of states by prevention, control and the abatement of water pollution, and 2. To improve the quality of air and to prevent, control or abate air pollution in the country. Cockburn's nationwide programs of ambient air quality monitoring known as National Air Quality Monitoring Program (NAMP), with objective as to determine the present air quality status and trends, and to control and regulate pollution from industries and other sources to meet the air quality standards. It also provides background air quality data needed for industrial siting and towns planning. One of the mandates of CPCB is to collect, collate and disseminate technical and statistical data relating to water pollution. CPCB, in collaboration with concerned SPCBs PCCs, established a nationwide network of water quality monitoring. Hence, water quality monitoring, WQM, and surveillance are of utmost importance. The Inland Water Quality Monitoring Network is operating under a three-tier program, i.e., Global Environment Monitoring System, GEMS, monitoring of Indian National Aquatic Resources System, MINARS, and Yamun Action Plan, YAP. CPCB programs for urban areas, also known as EcoCity program, comes under X-Plan to improve environment through implementation of identified environmental improvement projects in the selected towns and cities. Every municipal authority comes under the Municipal Solid Wastes Management Handling Rules 2000, MSW Rules 2000, and responsible for collection, segregation, storage, transportation, processing and disposal of municipal solid. CPCB collects necessary information for municipal authorities and provide them technical assistance according to SO 123E by MEV, various sources like industrial activity, construction activity, generator sets, loudspeakers, public address systems, music systems, vehicular horns and other mechanical devices have deleterious effects on human health. CPCB has the responsibility to regulate and control noise-producing and generating sources with the objective of maintaining the ambient air quality standards. CPCB manages environmental data statistic in which air quality data and water quality data comes through. In the case of air quality data, it measures the level of SO2, number 2 RSPM and SPM. CPCB measure and maintains water quality data as well. Quality level of river and ponds are the major fields which comes under the water quality data criteria. State Pollution Control Board, SPCB. There are state pollution control boards at various state capitals of the country to advise respective state governments to control and protect environment. Till 1989, all except the states of Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh and Sikkim have their SPCBs. All SPCBs look after the interest of the respective states where they function. They implement the directives from CPCB and all acts which are enacted from time to time. The SPCB has also branches at different towns in the states. A person of repute in the field of environment or environmental scientists heads the SPCB as chairman. The SPCB has its own team of scientists and laboratories to check quality of air, soil and water of different samples collected from industrial areas. 2.8 Environmental Impact Assessment Notification 2006 EIA is an important procedure for ensuring that the likely effects of new development on the environment are fully understood and taken into account before the development is allowed to go ahead. History. After Bhopal gas tragedy, Environmental Protection Act was enacted. 1986, also refer as Umbrella Act under EP Act, EIA. Notification was issued in 1994. Cost of project was criteria for screening. In 2006, again new EIA notification was issued, substituted old one. The Union Ministry of Environment and Forest, MEV, notified the new EIA. Notification in September 2006 after putting up the draft notification for public comment for a year, though there have been some improvements in the new notification over the previous one. It has certainly failed to meet the expectations of the various stakeholders, especially members of the civil society, NGOs and local community. The new notification has tried bringing in more number of projects within the purview of the environmental clearance process. Most importantly, there is no categorization of projects requiring EIA based on investment, rather size or capacity of the project determines whether it is cleared by the central or state government. The salient features of EIA notification 2006 inter alia include I. The EIA notification 2006 has categorized the projects into two categories, namely Category A and Category B based on their impact potential. 2. Category A projects will be appraised at the central level while Category B project at the state level. 3. State-level environment impact assessment authorities and committees, SEIAs and SEACs, have been constituted for the purpose of appraisal of Category B projects. 4. The stage of scoping for prescribing terms of reference by the regulatory agency for the EIA studies has been incorporated in accordance with the international practice. It is expected to improve the quality of EIA, thereby improving the quality of decision-making and minimizing the delays. The public consultation process has been made more structured. It has two components: I comments through correspondence and by public hearing at site. Provision to videograph the proceedings of the public hearing has been made. 6. NOCs from other regulatory agencies such as SPCB etc. are not a prerequisite for considering application for environmental clearance. 2.9 National Water Quality Program. the Central Pollution Control Board (CPCB) has established a network of monitoring stations on aquatic resources across the country. The present network comprises of 2,500 stations in 28 states and 6 union territories spread over the country. The monitoring network covers 445 rivers, 154 lakes, 12 tanks, 78 ponds, 41 creeks seawater, 25 canals, 45 drains, 10 water treatment plant, raw water, and 807 wells. Among the 2,500 stations, 1275 are on rivers, 190 on lakes, 45 on drains, 41 on canals, 12 on tanks, 41 on creeks seawater, 79 on ponds, 10 water treatment plant, raw water, and 807 are groundwater stations. Presently, the Inland Water Quality Monitoring Network is operated under a three-tier program: I Global Environment Monitoring System, GEMS, Monitoring of Indian National Aquatic Resources System, MINARS, and Yamuna Action Plan, YAP. Water samples are being analyzed for 28 parameters, consisting of 9 core parameters, 19 other physicochemical and bacteriological parameters apart from the field observations. Besides this, 9 trace metals and 15 pesticides are also analyzed in selected samples. Biomonitoring is also carried out on specific locations. In view of limited resources, limited numbers of organic pollution-related parameters are monitored. Micropollutants, toxic metals POPs, are analyzed once in a year to assess the water quality. The water quality data are reported in Water Quality Status Yearbook 2.10. National Air Quality Monitoring Program. Central Pollution Control Board is executing a nationwide program of ambient air quality monitoring known as National Air Quality Monitoring Program (NAMP). The network consists of 683 operating stations covering 300 cities, towns in 29 states and 6 union territories of the country. The objectives of the NAMP are to determine status and trends of ambient air quality, to ascertain whether the prescribed ambient air quality standards are violated, to identify non-attainment cities, to obtain the knowledge and understanding necessary for developing preventive and corrective measures, and to understand the natural cleansing process undergoing in the environment through pollution dilution, dispersion, wind-based movement, dry deposition, precipitation and chemical transformation of pollutants generated under NAMP. 4 air pollutants with sulfur dioxide, SO2, oxides of nitrogen as number to respirable suspended particulate matter, RSPM PM10, and fine particulate matter, PM2.5, have been identified for regular monitoring at all the locations. The monitoring of meteorological parameters such as wind, speed and wind direction, relative humidity, RH, and temperature were also integrated with the monitoring of air quality. The monitoring of pollutants is carried out for 24 hours, 4-hourly sampling for gaseous pollutants and 8-hourly sampling for particulate matter, with a frequency of twice a week, to have 104 observations in a year. The monitoring is being carried out with the help of Central Pollution Control Board, State Pollution Control Boards, Pollution Control Committees, National Environmental Engineering Research Institute, NEERI, Nagpur. CPCB coordinates with these agencies to ensure the uniformity, consistency of air quality data and provides technical and financial support to them for operating the monitoring stations. NAMP is being operated through various monitoring agencies. Large number of personnel and equipments are involved in the sampling, chemical analysis, data reporting, etc. It increases the probability of variation and personal biases reflecting in the data. Hence, it is pertinent to mention that these data be treated as indicative rather than absolute. National Air Quality Index, NAQI. The NAQI was prepared by an expert group set up the Ministry of Environment and Forests, comprising of renowned medical practitioners from hospitals and research agencies. The index is a part of the government's Swachh Bharat mission. The index measures 8 major pollutants, namely particulate matter, PM10 and PM 2.5, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, ozone, carbon monoxide, ammonia and lead. Currently, only particulate matter, nitrogen dioxide and sulfur dioxide. The index is based on real-time monitoring, and the health risks are easily identified through a color-coded system. The risks will be signified through 6 levels: good, satisfactory, moderately polluted, poor, very poor, and severe. Air quality is qualified as good if the level of air pollution is at least 50% below the permissible limits set by the pollution control authorities. The index will be extended to 46 cities having a population of more than 1 million and 20 state capitals over the next 5 years. 2.11 National Wetland Conservation Program. Wetlands are areas where water is the primary factor controlling the environment and the associated plant and animal life. They occur where the water table is at, or near the surface of the land, or where the land is covered by water. Once treated as transitional habitats or serial stages in succession from open water to land, the wetlands are now considered to be distinct ecosystems with specific ecological characteristics, functions and values. Ramsar Convention on Wetlands define wetlands as areas of marsh, fen, peatland or water, whether natural or artificial, permanent or temporary, with water that is static or flowing, fresh, brackish or salt, including areas of marine water the depth of which at low tide does not exceed 6 meters. Wetlands, natural and man-made, freshwater or brackish, provide numerous ecological services. The density of birds, in particular, is an accurate indication of the ecological health of a particular wetland. However, unsustainable use of wetland without reckoning of their assimilative capacity constitutes major threat to the conservation and management of these vital biodiversity-rich areas. The Government of India has been implementing the National Wetlands Conservation Programme (NWCP) in close collaboration with the state UT governments since the year 1985 to 86. Under the program, 115 wetlands have been identified till now by the ministry which require urgent conservation and management interventions. The objective of this program is the conservation of wetlands in the country so as to prevent their further degradation and ensuring their wise use for the benefit of local communities and overall conservation of biodiversity. Financial assistance under NWCP is provided for 2 components, i.e., Management Action Plan (MAP) and research projects. Under the scheme, 100% assistance is provided for activities. Conservation and management of wetlands is primarily vested with the state UTs, who are in physical possession of the area. After identification of wetlands under the scheme, the state UTs are to submit long-term comprehensive management action plans, MAPs. For a period of 3 to 5 years, preferably 5 years, coinciding with the plan period. The Convention on Wetlands, signed in Ramsar, Iran, in 1971, is an intergovernmental treaty which provides the framework for national action and international cooperation for the conservation and wise use of wetlands and their resources. There are presently 158 contracting parties to the Convention, with 1758 wetland sites. totaling 161 million hectares, designated for inclusion in the Ramsar list of wetlands of international importance. Ramsar Convention is the only global environment treaty dealing with a particular ecosystem. The Ramsar Convention on Wetlands was developed as a means to call international attention to the rate at which wetland habitats were disappearing, in part due to a lack of understanding of their important functions, values, goods and services. Governments that join the convention are expressing their willingness to make a commitment to helping to reverse that history of wetland loss and degradation. In addition, many wetlands are international systems lying across the boundaries of two or more countries, or are part of river basins that include more than one country. The health of these and other wetlands is dependent upon the quality and quantity of the transboundary water supply from rivers, streams, lakes, or underground aquifers. Montreal's record under the convention is a register of wetland sites on the list of wetlands of international importance where changes in ecological character have occurred, are occurring, or are likely to occur as a result of technological developments, pollution or other human interference. It is maintained as part of the Ramsar list. Sites may be added to and removed from the record only with the approval of the contracting parties, in which daily World Wetlands Day, which is celebrated each year on 2nd February, marks the date of the adoption of the Convention on Wetlands on 2nd February 1971 in the Iranian city of Ramsar on the shores of the Caspian Sea. World Wetlands Day was celebrated for the first time on 2nd February 1997 on the 16th anniversary of the Ramsar Convention. Each year since 1997, government agencies, non-governmental organizations, and groups of citizens at all levels of the community have taken advantage of the opportunity to undertake actions aimed at raising public awareness of wetland values and benefits in general and the Ramsar Convention in particular. 2.1 to National Health Policy 2002. A national health policy was last formulated in 1983, and since then there have been marked changes in the determinant factors relating to the health sector. Some of the policy initiatives outlined in the NHP 1983 have yielded results, while in several other areas, the outcome has not been as expected. The National Health Policy 2002 aims at reviving and emerging the ailing health system and increasing the primary health sector outlay to ensure a more equitable access to health services across the social and geographical expanse of the country. However, the main objective of the policy is to achieve an acceptable standard of good health amongst the general population by the country. The approach of the policies to increase access to the decentralized public health system by establishing new infrastructure in deficient areas and by upgrading the infrastructure in the existing institutions. The contribution of the private sector in providing health services is also to be enhanced, particularly for the population group which can afford to pay for services. The policy has also planned to increase health sector expenditure to 6% of GDP. The National Health Policy 2002 sets out an allocation of 55% of the total public health investment for the primary health sector, 35% for secondary health sector and 10% for tertiary health sector respectively. Apart from these, the policy envisages the gradual convergence of all health programs under a single field administration. Programs for control of major diseases like TB, malaria, HIV/AIDS, and universal immunization programs to be continued till moderate success is achieved. The policy further emphasized on the revival of the primary health system by providing some essential drugs under central governmental funding through the decentralized health system. Apart from these major provisions of the National Health Policy, 2002 role of local self-government policy lays great emphasis upon the implementation of public health programs through local self-government institutions. 2. Use of generic drugs and vaccines, both for public and private sector. This is a prerequisite for cost-effective public health care. 3. Urban health. National Health Policy 2002 envisages the setting up of an organized urban primary health care structure. The structure conceived under the policy is two-tiered. 1. The primary center is seen as first tier, covering a population of 1 lakh with a dispensary providing an OPD facility and essential drugs to enable access to all the national health programs, and a second tier of the urban health organization at the level of the government general hospital where reference is made from primary center. 4. Mental health policy also envisages a network of decentralized mental health services for ameliorating the main common categories of disorders. The program outline for such a disease would involve the diagnosis of common disorders, the prescription of common therapeutic drugs by general duty medical staff. National Disease Surveillance Network. The policy also envisages the full operationalization of an integrated disease control network from the lowest rung of public health administration to the central government by 2005. The program under this includes installation of database handling hardware, information technology connectivity between different tiers of the network, and in-house training for data collection and interpretation for undertaking timely and effective response. 6. Women's health. The policy also noted that women, along with other underprivileged groups, have low access to health care, and this also recommends expansion of primary health sector infrastructure that will facilitate increased access of women to basic health care. 7. Medical ethics. In order to ensure that common patient is not subjected to irrational or profit-driven medical regimes, contemporary code of medical ethics be notified and rigorously implemented by the Medical Council of India. 8. Impact of globalization on the health sector. The health policy also takes into account the serious apprehension expressed by health experts about the possible threat to health security in globalization era as a result of a sharp increase in the prices of drugs and vaccines. To protect the citizens from such a threat, the policy envisages a national patent regime for the future which will be consistent with TRIPS. 2.13 National Rural Health Mission. India's public health care situation, particularly in rural regions and villages, had been a major concern since independence. Hunger, malnutrition, and high mortality had plagued the nation for decades. In 2005, India's infant mortality rate, IMR, stood at 58, well above the global average. In 2001-3, the maternal mortality ratio, MMR, estimates were pegged at 301 maternal deaths per 100,000 live births, and 2004-2006 saw 254 maternal deaths per 100,000 live births. In 2006, when the first Global Hunger Index report was released, India was ranked 96 among 119 hungriest countries in the world. In 2005, about 43.5% children in the country were considered underweight. The need for a focused initiative to tackle the health scenario led to the launch of NRHM by Thobiyeli Prime Minister on 12 April 2005 as a welfare initiative to strengthen the health care infrastructure and to boost the failing public health indicators in the rural areas of 18 Indian states, and to provide accessible, affordable and quality health care to the rural population, especially the vulnerable groups. The Union Cabinet, via its decision dated 1 May 2013, has approved the launch of National Urban Health Mission (NUHM) as a submission of an overarching National Health Mission (NHM), with National Rural Health Mission (NRHM) being the other submission of National Health Mission. Under the NRHM, the Empowered Action Group (EAG) states as well as northeastern states, Jammu and Kashmir and Himachal Pradesh have been given special focus. The 18 states in focus by the NRHM include the Empowered Action Group (EAG) states. The north-eastern states, Jammu and Kashmir and Himachal Pradesh. The NRHM now covers all Indian states and union territories. Some of the NHM schemes are Rashtriya Bal Swasthya Karyakram. The aim of this program is to provide comprehensive child health care for all Indians from newborns to children under the age of 18. The program intends to control, manage, and prevent diseases, deficiencies, disability, and developmental delays. Rashtriya Kishore Swasthya Karyakram targeted to improve the health of adolescents between the ages of 10 and 19. This scheme not only looks into deficiencies, diseases, and diet but also looks into important aspects of social environment such as substance abuse. Janani Swasthya Shishu Suraksha Karyakram launched in 2011. The scheme aims to bring health benefits to over 12 million pregnant women in the country. Apart from neonatal and postnatal care, the scheme also aims at providing newborn care and infant health care for 30 days since birth. 2.14 National Vector-Borne Disease Control Program, launched in 2003-4 by merging National Anti-Malaria Control Program, National Filaria Control Program and Kala Azar Control Programs. Japanese B, encephalitis and dengue DHF have also been included in this program. Directorate of NAMP is the nodal agency for prevention and control of major vector-borne diseases. List of vector-borne diseases control program legislations. 1. National Anti-Malaria Program. 2. Kala Azar Control Program. 3. National Filaria Control Program. 4. Japanese Encephalitis Control Program. 5. Dengue and dengue hemorrhagic fever. 1. National Anti-Malaria Program. Malaria is one of the serious public health problems in India. At the time of independence, malaria was contributing 75 million cases with 0.8 million deaths every year prior to the launching of National Malaria Control Program in 1953. A countrywide comprehensive program to control malaria was recommended in 1946 by the Bhore Committee report that was endorsed by the Planning Commission in 1951. The National Program Against Malaria has a long history since that time. In April 1953, Government of India launched a National Malaria Control Program (NMCP). Objectives: to bring down malaria transmission to a level at which it would cease to be a major public health problem. 2. Kala Azar Control Program. Kala Azar or visceral leishmaniasis (VL) is a chronic disease caused by an intracellular protozoan, Leishmania species, and transmitted to man by bite of female phlebotomous sandfly. Currently, it is a main problem in Bihar, Jharkhand, West Bengal and some parts of Uttar Pradesh. In view of the growing problem, planned control measures were initiated to control Kala Azar. Objectives: the strategy for Kala Azar control broadly included three main activities: interruption of transmission by reducing vector population through indoor residual insecticides, early diagnosis and complete treatment of Kala Azar cases, and health education program for community awareness. 3. National Filaria Control Program. Bancroftian filariasis caused by Wuchereria bancrofti, which is transmitted to man by the bites of infected mosquitoes, Culex anopheles, Mansonia and AIDS. Lymphacia filaria is prevalent in 18 states and union territories. Bancroftian filariasis is widely distributed while Brugian filariasis caused by Brugia malai is restricted to 7 states UP, Bihar, Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and Gujarat. The National Filaria Control Program was launched in 1955. The activities were mainly confined to urban areas. However, the program has been extended to rural areas since 1994. Objectives: reduction of the problem in unsurveyed areas, control in urban areas through recurrent anti-larval and antiparasitic measures. 4. Japanese Encephalitis Control Program. Japanese encephalitis, J, is a zoonotic disease and caused by an arbovirus, group B, flavivirus, and transmitted by Culex mosquitoes. This disease has been reported from 26 states and UTs since 1978. Only 15 states are reporting J regularly. The case fatality in India is 35%, which can be reduced by early detection, immediate referral to hospital, and proper medical and nursing care. The total population at risk is estimated 160 million. The most disturbing feature of J has been the regular occurrence of outbreak in different parts of the country. Government of India has constituted a task force at national level which is in operation and reviews the J situations and its control strategies from time to time. Though Directorate of National Anti-Malaria Program is monitoring J situation in the country. Objectives: strengthening early diagnosis and prompt case management at PHCs, CHCs, and hospitals through training of medical and nursing staff. IC for community awareness to promote early case reporting. Personal protection, isolation of amplifier host, etc. Vector control measures mainly fogging during outbreaks, space spraying in animal dwellings, and anti-larval operation where feasible, and development of a safe and standard indigenous vaccine. Vaccination for high-risk population, particularly children below 15 years of age. 5. Dengue and dengue hemorrhagic fever. One of the most important resurgent tropical infectious disease is dengue. Dengue fever and dengue hemorrhagic fever, DHF, are acute fevers caused by 4 antigenically related but distinct dengue virus serotypes, DEN 1, 2, 3 and 4, transmitted by the infected mosquitoes, Aedes aegypti. Dengue outbreaks have been reported from urban areas from all states. All the 4 serotypes of dengue virus, 1, 2, 3 and 4, exist in India. The vector Aedes aegypti breed in peri-domestic fresh water collections and is found in both urban and rural areas. Objectives: surveillance for disease and outbreaks, yearly diagnosis and prompt case management, vector control through community participation and social mobilization, capacity building, health being a state matter, the responsibility of implementation of program strategies and monitoring in accordance to program guidelines lies with Directorate of Health Services, with stipulated technical components. There is a system of coordination between the state and center for effective implementation and monitoring of Program 2.15 National Tobacco Control Program. Tobacco use is one of the main risk factors for a number of chronic diseases, including cancer, lung diseases, and cardiovascular diseases. India is the second largest producer and consumer of tobacco, and a variety of forms of tobacco use is unique to India apart from the smoked forms that include cigarettes, BDs and cigars. A plethora of smokeless forms of consumption exist in the country. The Government of India has enacted the National Tobacco Control legislation, namely the Cigarettes and Other Tobacco Products, Prohibition of Advertisement and Regulation of Trade and Commerce, Production, Supply and Distribution Act 2003. In May 2003, India also ratified the WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, UFCTC, in February 2004. Further, In order to facilitate the effective implementation of the Tobacco Control Law to bring about greater awareness about the harmful effects of tobacco as well as to fulfill the obligations under the WHO FCTC, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India launched the National Tobacco Control Programme (NTCP) in 2007 to 8 in 42 districts of 21 states union territories of the country. Objectives: to bring about greater awareness about the harmful effects of tobacco use and tobacco control laws, to facilitate effective implementation of the tobacco control laws, to control tobacco consumption and minimize the deaths caused by it. The key activities undertaken under the National Tobacco Control Program include: 1. National level public awareness campaigns, 2. Monitoring, evaluation and research, 3. Advocacy and intersectoral linkages, 4. Training and capacity building of multiple stakeholders, 5. Enforcement of the Tobacco Control Act, COTPA, 2003, 6. School awareness programs, 7. Setting up and expansion of cessation services relevant. COPTA, cigarettes and other tobacco products, prohibition of advertisement and regulation of trade and commerce, production, supply and distribution, Act 2003 sections, Section 4, prohibition of smoking in public places. Section 5, prohibition of direct and indirect advertisement, promotion and sponsorship of cigarette and other tobacco products. Section 6, a prohibition of sale of cigarette and other tobacco products to a person below the age of 18 years. Section 6, B. Prohibition of sale of tobacco products within a radius of 100 yards of educational institutions. Section 7. Mandatory depiction of statutory warnings, including pictorial warnings on tobacco packs. Section 7. 5. Display of tar and nicotine contents on tobacco packs. 2.16 National Programme for Prevention and Control of Fluorosis. Fluorosis is a crippling disease resulted from deposition of fluorides in the hard and soft tissues of body. It is a public health problem caused by excess intake of fluoride through drinking water, food products, industrial pollutants over a long period. Ingestion of excess fluoride, most commonly in drinking water, affects the teeth and bones. It results in major health disorders like dental fluorosis, skeletal fluorosis and non-skeletal fluorosis. Dental fluorosis affects children and discolors and disfigures the teeth. The teeth could be chalky white and may have white, yellow, brown or black spots or streaks on the enamel surface. Discoloration is away from the gums and bilaterally symmetrical. Skeletal fluorosis affects the bones and major joints of the body like neck, backbone, shoulder, hip and knee joints with severe pain, rigidity, or stiffness in joints. In severe forms, it results in marked disability. Non-skeletal fluorosis is an earlier manifestation of fluorosis seen as gastrointestinal complaints, etc., and may overlap with other diseases leading to misdiagnosis. It affects men, women and children of all age groups. Fluorosis is worldwide in distribution and endemic at least in 25 countries. It has been reported from fluoride belts, one that stretches from Syria through Jordan, Egypt, Libya, Algeria, Sudan and Kenya, and another that stretches from Turkey through Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, India, northern Thailand and China. There are similar belts in the Americas and Japan. In India, fluorosis is mainly due to excessive fluoride in water except in parts of Gujarat and Uttar Pradesh where industrial fluorosis is also seen. The desirable limit of fluoride as per Bureau of Indian Standards (BIS) is 1 ppm parts per million or 1 mg per liter. The late stages of skeletal and dental fluorosis are permanent and irreversible in nature and are detrimental to the health of an individual and the community, which in turn has adverse effects on growth, development economy of the country. The Rajiv Gandhi National Drinking Water Mission started by Ministry of Rural Development worked for control of fluorosis through its awareness campaign from 1987 to 1993, coordinated by Fluorosis Control Cell at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Delhi, had a limited coverage in the 11th Five-Year Plan, 2008-9, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India launched a national program for prevention and control of fluorosis, NPPCF, with the aim for prevention, diagnosis and management of fluorosis in endemic areas. 100 districts of 17 states were covered during 11th plan, and additional 32 districts have been covered during the 12th Five-Year Plan. 2.17 National Iodine Deficiency Disorder Control Program. Iodine is one of the essential elements required for normal human growth and development. Its daily per capita requirement is around 100 to 150 micrograms. Iodine is required for the synthesis of the thyroid hormones, thyroxine T4 and triiodothyronine T3, and essential for the normal growth and development. Deficiency of iodine can cause physical and mental retardation, cretinism, abortions, stillbirth, deaf mutism, squint, various types of goiter, as per the surveys conducted by the Directorate General of Health Services, Indian Council of Medical Research, health institutions and the state health directorates. It has been found that out of 414 districts surveyed in all the 29 states and 7 UTs, 337 districts are endemic I.E. where the prevalence of iodine deficiency disorders, IDDs, is more than 5%, realizing the magnitude of the problem. The Government of India launched a 100% centrally assisted National Goiter Control Program, NGCP, in 1962. In August 1992, the National Goiter Control Program, NGCP, was renamed as National Iodine Deficiency Disorders Control Program, NIDDCP, with a view of wide spectrum of iodine deficiency disorders. Objectives. The important objectives and components of National Iodine Deficiency Disorders Control Iodine Deficiency Disorders Control Program, NIDDCP, are as follows. Surveys to assess the magnitude of the iodine deficiency disorders, supply of iodated salt in place of common salt, resurvey after every 5 years to assess the extent of iodine deficiency disorders and the impact of lodated salt, laboratory monitoring of iodated salt and urinary iodine excretion, health education and publicity. Goal: to bring the prevalence of IDD to below 5% in the country, to ensure 100% consumption of adequately iodated salt, 15 ppm, at the household level. Policy on the recommendations of Central Council of Health in 1984. The government took a policy decision to iodate the entire edible salt in the country by 1992. The program started in April 1986 in a phased manner. To date, the annual production of iodated salt in our country is 65 lakh metric tons per annum. 2.8 Summary. Environmental law refers to rules and regulations governing human conduct likely to affect the environment. It reflects the legislative measures and the administrative and judicial structures to protect the environment. Environmental law aids in regulation of resource use, protection of the environment and biodiversity, mediation, conflict resolution and conciliation, formulation of stable, unambiguous undertakings and agreements. Legislations have evolved in response to problems, so that there is often a delay between the need and the establishment of satisfactory law. Without effective legislation, resource use, pollution control, conservation and most fields of human activity are likely to fall into chaos and conflict. Law can encourage satisfactory performance. Enable authorities to punish those who infringe environmental management legislation, confiscate faulty equipment or close a company. It may also be possible for employees, bystanders and product or service users to sue for damages if they are harmed. To protect the limited resources in the country, there is a need for it to implement environmental laws that act as safeguards. In India, the Central Pollution Control Board monitors the industrial pollution at central level and state of departments of environment and state at state level. Various programs have been launched at national level such as Wetland Conservation, National Health Policy, Rural Health Mission to control vector-borne disease, tobacco control, fluorosis, iodine deficiency, etc. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video with the next chapter.